Welcome back to WYMT Election Headquarters. Steve Hensley and Neil Middleton with you. We are standing by to hear from U.S. Senator Rand Paul. We understand he is getting ready to speak at the Galt House in Louisville. I believe that is his wife speaking now. And he's expected to announce that he is victorious tonight. The race was called right at 7 o'clock as the polls closed in western Kentucky. If you look at the results, it's actually tightened a little bit. Rand Paul with 55% of the vote to Lexington Mayor Jim Gray with about 45% of the vote. If you look at the map of Kentucky, which you can look at an interactive map on WYMT and see a county by county breakdown, all of eastern Kentucky is in red. Eastern Kentucky really went for Rand Paul tonight. There's only a scattered number of blue counties, mainly in central Kentucky. Well,
you know, Steve, Kentucky has not elected a Democrat to the U.S. Senate since 1992. Wendell Ford, who was popular not only among Democrats but Republicans, but this state really is starting to shift red.
And you look at the presidential race too. It's back in the 90s, the last time a Democrat won Kentucky, and that was ironically Bill Clinton.
Right, and here's just, you know, here's some interesting stats I'm going to pull up for you. You know, 30 years ago, Democrats held a 3-to-1 advantage in Kentucky. Today, Democrats outnumber Republicans by only a 51 to 40% margin. That's quite a shift in the last few years.
Yes, it is. And again, we are standing by for Rand Paul. As you can see, lots of signs being held up in the air. A big party underway at the Galt House in Louisville, and I believe he has just stepped onto the stage. So let's listen in to Senator Rand Paul.
Thank you, Kentucky. It's gonna be a big, big night for conservatives in Kentucky. I want to thank each of you for giving me the privilege of defending the Constitution for 6 more years. I take that privilege seriously and will honor my oath to defend the Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic. This national election has been long, loud, and divisive. While there is much that divides us, there is also a uniquely American hope for the future that unites us. My hope is that we will find common ground. My hope is that we will rediscover that our prosperity is truly bound to our liberty. We do, however, face a question that is bigger than this election and must be heard. Can liberty survive in a democracy unrestrained by the Constitution? I don't think so. Will a people continue to choose liberty if they have given up on the American dream? I don't think so. The American experiment with liberty is not totally won. Today, tomorrow, and the day after, we must fight to restrain Big Brother at every turn. We must stand together against the rising tide of government excess that threatens to trap us, to hold us captive. To defend liberty, we absolutely must defend the entire Bill of Rights. Justice Brandeis said that the right most cherished among civilized men and women is the right to be left alone. I couldn't agree more. Privacy is not only essential to freedom, it's essential to creativity. Pink Floyd understood this. Pink Floyd understood that genius needs to be left the hell alone. Whether your ideas are politically correct or not, whether you're a painter or a self-proclaimed prophet, the exhortation is to shine to not let your conformity dim that light. To shine, shine on, you crazy diamond. For the crazy diamonds to shine, government must get the heck out of the way. The leave me alone generation is a generation that believes they can conquer the world, solve any problem, if left free to follow their dreams. It isn't about how government will lead us to prosperity. The debate is about getting government out of the way of human ingenuity. I am proud to have been supported by thousands of veterans across Kentucky. They are patriots, all of them, but they ask only that we go to war as a last resort, and only after serious public debate, and only after constitutional authorization by Congress. We need a reasonable, realist foreign policy where we stand strong enough to deter any attack, but not eager to start World War III. When we must fight, it should be to defend America, not for regime change and not for nation building. Our founding fathers understood that power was a corrupting force. The founders therefore gave the power to declare war to Congress, not the president. Their goal was to divide power among co-equal branches of government and to reserve all unenumerated powers to the states and the people respectively. Our founding fathers feared centralization of power. As Madison wrote, where an excess of power prevails, no man is safe in his possessions, his person, or his opinions. Our founders wrote that the Constitution was to restrain the accumulation of power by the government. Elections should be about protecting you from an overbearing government, not about which candidate will grab the ring of power. The goal should be to set you free, to leave you alone, to have a government so small you can barely see it. While the presidential victor is not yet known, I continue to believe that to win nationally, the GOP will need to become a bigger, better, bolder party. We need to welcome people of all walks of life, black, white, brown, with tattoos and without tattoos. With earrings, without, in overalls, in suits. After all, big government tramples on people from all walks of life. Regardless of who wins the presidency, I will not be a rubber stamp for a liberal Supreme Court nominee. I will only support a new Supreme Court justice who understands and believes in the Constitution's separation of powers. So often people look to politicians and say, what are you going to do? But really, we should all simply look in the mirror for solutions. Families, mothers, fathers, churches need to be part of the answer. Liberals will never understand this simple fact, just as they will never understand that charity is about giving your own money, not the taxpayers' money. It is important to remember
Rand Paul declaring victory tonight in the U.S. Senate race over Lexington Mayor Jim Gray. We have some breaking news we want to tell you about in the House race. involving Greg Stumbo, House Speaker Greg Stumbo, and Larry Brown. We understand Larry Brown is now declaring victory over House Speaker Greg Stumbo. This is a Facebook Live video from our reporter Cassidy Stricklet, and let's see if we can listen in to what Larry Brown is saying.
And I still love him as a brother from when we grew up from years and years ago. But now I want to see the Republicans and the Democrats work together in the House because our Commonwealth deserves it. We're now going to be rid of obstructionist policies that have dominated the Commonwealth for 95 years. I understand, somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but we flipped the House tonight. Yeah. Wow. Folks, there's some people that I do want to thank for their tireless efforts. Kevin Conley. Wow. He's the one that came up with the slogan, "He's with Herb and I'm with you," okay? He has been, his abilities on Facebook and social media have been unprecedented. You've got a job, my friend, someplace else. I mean, if you want to get into this business full time, I would say, because people in Frankfurt were asking, who's doing your material? Kevin. Barry Boyd. Where are you, buddy? Back here. Barry Boyd and he took me places, I promise you, and I'm embarrassed to say this, but I've never been before in Floyd County. We've seen a lot, we've met a lot of people, but Barry was the driving force. Literally, I was the driver. We probably felt like 10,000 miles in my vehicle over the past 3 months in seeing people. But Barry was there every step of the way and leading me to people who could lead me here. Jim Rhodes. Jim Rhodes has been my mentor through this process. Now, I know we may be on different sides of the aisle, but we're both conservatives. That's more important than anything else. And Jim's been with me and called me. We've talked at least once a week throughout this duration of this race about everything that's going on, where we need to focus on. Randy Davis. Folks, you have no idea the grief that man has taken to support me. And I will never forget that, Randy.
I look forward to working with you, Larry.
Bless your heart, brother. I do you as well. Dewey Salmons.
Yeah.
My brother, where are you doing? I got to tell you, folks, it got to where you talk about a great stress reliever is when we go out at nights putting up signs. Now, a majority of those signs got stolen. That's right. Hey, good point. We don't have to take them down. But they would suddenly disappear, and we would feel the frustration, but we also knew that by them doing so, whoever was doing it, we were striking a nerve. And the results tonight prove that out. Pardon, Jerry Meek. Folks, they went to flea markets, houses, grocery stores, you name it. They went all over the area for me, campaigning with people they didn't know. But Jerry's got that gift of gab, as you know, and I love him for it. But it's exactly what it takes in a political race, and I appreciate him so much. And Barb driving him around. I was hoping he would be here. Those of you all in my Little Paint family, Little Paint Church family, will appreciate this. I want to thank Daniel Boggs. He took his school pictures. His mom didn't know this. He cut them out and made palm cards for me, or cards to pass out with his picture on it, saying, "I'm voting for Larry Brown. If I could, I want your support." And I'll say, if he could. But that's what I'm talking about. It takes that kind of, that effort. Just a few others I could. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm getting calls on my phone. I bet. Alan Williams. Where are you, Alan? There you are. Alan. Mike Vance is another. Norm. Where are you, Norm? Norm Markham over here. He has endured the slings and arrows of outrageous remarks, you might say, on Facebook for my benefit. And I really appreciate you for what you've done, brother. And then Joey Collins. I don't think Joey made it here tonight, but he was out there on Facebook. Joey, you here? I'm sorry, I thought he was here. Bagging me on Facebook every chance he got. And folks, there's a few things I just want to say. John Finney, I have you down here as well, brother. John held me a fundraiser and had the governor come in for it. I've never been through an experience like that before, but there's one phrase we've used throughout this entire process: burn your boats. If he said that to me one time, he said it to me 10 dozen times, to burn your boats. It's kind of funny to read some of the text you would get. When you go through the end of it, it's like, burn your boats. It needs to make another comment, burn your boats. And I thought, okay, I've got that ingrained. He said, John, we burned our boats, brother, when we got here. Folks, I promise I'm going to work for you in the 95th District. I want to see Floyd and Pike County prosper like never before.
Yeah.
Like it was, as Gary said, in the 70s, back when the Colburn was going, because I believe in the people of Eastern Kentucky.
Yeah.
Though so many people throughout the state have given up on us, I believe in our people. People want to work. They want to have a job. They want to feel that worth of having employment. And we've got to get our miners back to work. We've got to get other people. We've got to bring other industry in here. We've got to bring infrastructure for that. I'm going to work tirelessly, if I can say it, to do that. I'm so anxious to get up there. As the governor called me a few moments ago, he said, brother, I'm so anxious to work with you. I'm so proud of you. I thought, wow. Pinch me. I mean, literally, where are we? But this is so great. I'm sorry, I'm looking at my notes here. I'm getting email after email. I'm sorry, text after text after text on my iPad. Folks, together, we need to do this. We need to work on this together. We can make our state prosperous again. We can make our people proud again. We can work together to make Eastern Kentucky something that we've never seen in our lifetimes. That's what's exciting. I want to bring transparency into government. We've not seen that in years either. And I want to accomplish, I can only accomplish all of this or any of this if we're working together. All of us working together. Because you remember what our state motto is, don't you? United we stand, united we fall. This division has got to stop. I had my eyes open to the division throughout this campaign. And now it's time to mend fences and bring our people together. So we can be a shining example for the other states around us. So they'll look at Kentucky and think, wow, that's the way we want to be. Follow our lead from now on. Folks, thank you so much. I'm so overwhelmed and so humbled. If there's anybody I forgot to thank, please forgive me. I've never been in this position before.
David's great.
You guys, truthfully, from the bottom of my heart, I thank you. I'm in awe of what you've elected me to do, and I want to see the 95th District prosper again, as I said, like never before. God bless you all, and God bless our great Commonwealth. Thank you for coming out.
All right, Larry Brown there in Floyd County. This is a huge headline of the night. Larry Brown defeats House Speaker Greg Stumbo. And a lot of people still thought Greg Stumbo would pull this out tonight. I keep thinking about that quote he said, "My opponent will not beat me, but Donald Trump can."
Well, I have it right here, yes. He said, my opponent can't beat me, but Donald Trump can. The Republicans really tried to tie him to Hillary Clinton and President Obama,
Yes.
and they used his speech from last year supporting President Obama. And he said this, he said, Cole, Clinton, and Trump, he said, you're not going to hear me ask people to vote for her talking about Hillary Clinton. And that was a change from 1 year ago when Stumbo referred to Clinton as an Arkansas traveler who is going to come here to Kentucky next year and help us rebuild the party. But it all goes back, a lot of it goes back to that quote. You heard it a couple of times in news stories tonight with Rand Paul and Jim Gray. We're going to put a lot of coal miners and a lot of coal companies out of work. Now, Clinton later apologized. She said that that was taken out of context. But Hillary Clinton and President Obama have, they put President Obama on the ballot here in Eastern Kentucky and basically put them on trial for the coal industry and tried to associate anyone that they could to that ticket.
Yeah, and the AP has called this race, by the way, for Larry Brown. So it is officially called. The latest numbers I have with 91% reporting Larry Brown with 8,031 to Greg Stumbo's 7,392. And we have now heard from Greg Stumbo.
We have, and we have a statement from here, from him, and you're going to see this here on your screen. The voters have spoken, so I want to congratulate Larry Brown for his win tonight. I want to thank the people of the 95th House District for a great career. I hope only the best for the district, my country, or my county, my commonwealth, and my country. And that is from House Speaker Greg Stumbo tonight. An interesting statistic with Greg Stumbo, he's never lost a race tonight, until tonight. Now, when he's the sole candidate. He did run as lieutenant governor, and they lost, him and Bruce Lunsford lost that race to Steve Beshear in the Democratic primary, but as a sole candidate, Greg Stumbo has never lost until tonight.
This is definitely going to make headlines around the state tonight, something, and it's really turning into a good night for Republicans here in Kentucky, at least. Maybe not nationally, but certainly here in Kentucky. And one thing Rand Paul said when he started his victory speech, it's a big night for conservatives in Kentucky.
Well, and if you just, let's run down some of these races right now, and these have not been called yet, but we want to just give you kind of an idea. With 90% of the vote, Regina Bunch has a commanding lead, 78% to 22%. She leads by about 7,000 votes. Now here, this is a surprise. 87, well, some people would say it's not a surprise, but 87% of the precincts voting on that State House District 84 race, Chris Fugit and Fitz Steele. Right now, Chris Fugit leads 62 to 38%. He has about a 4,000 vote margin there.
I think most people thought that would be a closer race. It would go down to the wire, but it could go either way. That's what I was hearing. It looks like Chris Fugit is going to possibly win a little easier than some people thought he would. I think Fitz is still a very well-liked person in this area. I personally thought it could go either way, but Chris Fugit seems to be also a very well-respected and liked person. He's a pastor, former state trooper.
And I think they both like each other in talking to them. I think they do. Here's something, though, that I think has played a lot into this, and we've talked about this here at WYMT. A lot of money was spent in this election.
Yes.
A lot of money from PACs. This has probably set a record for political money spent in an election, at least here at WYMT in the 30 plus years that we've been on the air and since I've been here. Mitch McConnell's leadership PAC, the Bluegrass Committee, had spent $85,000 to support Republican Kentucky House candidates as of November the 4th. His PAC also gave $10,000 to the Republican Party. Now, when Mitch McConnell first took office, that's something he set his sights on was getting more Republicans, and he's recruited Republicans to run at every level of office in Kentucky on the state, local, and national level.
And once again, in this race as well, Republicans tried to tie Fitz Steele to the national Democrats, even saying he was anti-coal, and he's certainly not anti-coal.
He's actually spent all of his life working in the coal industry. So some would say that's a surprise. If you look down in the Bell County State House District 87, which also represents part of Harlan County, that was another one that was supposed to be very close, and right now it is 89% of the precincts voting. The incumbent Rick Nelson there with a slim lead, about 1,000 votes right now, 53 to 47%. So that's too early to call, but right now that one's close.
And that's one bright spot for the Democrats tonight. Of course, Rick Nelson is the incumbent in that race. Going on down, State House District 91, this has been a back and forth all night. It now appears Gary Harold pulling away slightly from the incumbent, a Democrat, Cluster Howard. So that could be another race that impacts whether the House flips tonight, which it looks like at this point there's a very good chance of that happening. But Gary Harold with a 59 to 41% lead over Cluster Howard.
And obviously they met before. This is a rematch from 2 years ago, and only 14 votes separated it then. You go down to State House District 92, John Blanton and John Short. Been a lot of talk about this because of that investigation over there. This one's really tight too. Just a couple of hundred votes separate right now. John Blanton, the Republican candidate, with the lead.
Yes, very close, and definitely not ready to call that race yet, although it is 98% reporting, but it's a 51-49 race. John Short from Knott County, John Blanton, retired trooper from Magoffin County. Again, very close. House District 93, this may surprise some folks. Norma Kirk McCormick, another Republican, over the incumbent Democrat Chris Harris. It looks like she may hold on to win. That's just 60% reporting, but Norma Kirk McCormick with a 67% to 33% lead. And I keep thinking back to the ad that she ran with that picture standing next to Donald Trump.
And here in Eastern Kentucky, you know, in some areas we saw, especially when that videotape came out, a lot of candidates started distancing themselves from Donald Trump. That wasn't the strategy here in Eastern Kentucky. People wanted to associate themselves with Donald Trump and with coal. And if you notice, coal was an issue in this campaign on the national level. Both presidential candidates talked about it. It was mentioned in the debates. So candidates here, Republican candidates, wanted to tie themselves.
Okay, and we understand that Jim Gray is about to give his concession speech at Manchester Music Hall in Lexington. I don't know if we can put up a live picture there. Obviously, a lot of disappointed Democrats. Of course, this race was called right as the polls closed in Western Kentucky at 7 o'clock. I believe if we can pull up that interactive map, I believe I think we have the presidential race pulled up, but if you look at the county by county race, Eastern Kentucky is red for Jim Gray. I mean, for Rand Paul rather. Rand Paul easily defeated Jim Gray in Eastern Kentucky and in Western Kentucky. There you can see, you can't see it very close up, but as you can see, it's the majority red counties there. And Rand Paul now leads Jim Gray 56 to 43%, and every county in our coverage area is red. It looks like Rowan County, no, that's Elliott County that went for Jim Gray, but certainly Rand Paul did very well with rural voters in eastern Western Kentucky.
And one of the things I think, and we mentioned this in the May primary, everyone knew that it was going to be an uphill battle for Jim Gray. The Democrats picked, you know, they want to take control of the Senate, and the Democrats picked the races that they felt like that they could win, and that's where they funneled the money. They really did not put a lot of money, if any, into this campaign for Jim Gray. It wasn't a race that Democrats on a national level really felt like they had a chance to win. So I think that hurt him as well.
Again, we're standing by for Jim Gray's concession speech. We're going to try to stay on the air until that happens. Let's return for a moment to these House races. Some very interesting House races, some very close ones tonight. If you look down at District 97, this is another one that may surprise some people. Another Democrat losing tonight, a longtime incumbent, Hubie Collins.
Right.
William Wells is defeating Hubie Collins tonight. Right now, that's 76% of the vote in. William Wells with 57% to Hubert Collins, 43%.
And in the State House District 99, only about 49% of the votes in, but Rocky Adkins, very popular. He has a commanding lead there with 71% to 29%. Again, only about 50% of the votes in right now, but he has a commanding lead there as well.
Yeah, and I don't think a lot of people thought Rocky Adkins would have a problem tonight. We have one state Senate race we're watching in our region tonight that covers several counties over in the western and northwestern part of our coverage area, and Albert Robinson, and I don't think this is a big surprise either, is winning easily 57% reporting, but right now Albert Robertson has 72% of the vote to Janice Odom, the Democrat, 28%. Of course, Albert Robertson has been in politics going back to the 70s in the House and Senate.
That's right. And the headline of the hour right now, Steve, is Larry Brown upsetting House Speaker Greg Stumbo. We're going to talk to we're waiting on Jim Gray, and we're also going to try to get our political analysts Mike Duncan and Coleman Eldridge on the phone or on Skype, and we're going to try to talk to them here in just a few minutes too, and talk about that big upset there for the House Speaker. But right now, if you look at it on the surface, it looks like at least the Republicans are in a position to flip the House.
Oh, absolutely. Definitely it's trending that way, and it looks like it's going to be a good night for the GOP in Kentucky. Again, we're waiting on Jim Gray to give his concession speech in Lexington. I know we've been away from CBS coverage for a little while, so I want to go back to the presidential race for just a moment. And right now, Donald Trump has 51 electoral votes. Hillary Clinton has 44. And I don't know if we can put this interactive map up that I've got pulled up of the states in the presidential race, but it looks like Trump has won Oklahoma, Trump has won Tennessee, he of course won Kentucky, he won Indiana, he won West Virginia, of course another coal state, and he won South Carolina. Hillary Clinton has won a handful of states in the Northeast, and Florida, as always, seems like Florida is back and forth. It's been trending Hillary Clinton 1 minute and Donald Trump the next. And North Carolina, you were talking about that state with our political analyst earlier. It's very close too, but now Hillary Clinton's sort of pulling away a little bit in North Carolina. So we may be looking at a pretty tight race tonight in the presidential contest.
Well, I think a lot of people think that it will be sometime, if we know tonight, it could be around 11 o'clock, or that's kind of seems like the magic hour that I've heard a lot of the political pundits on the national level talking about. But, this race could be very, very close.
It could. Okay, we're going to go to Jim Gray now. Let's go to Lexington. It looks like Jim Gray is walking out. Maybe not out just yet. This is at Manchester Music Hall in Lexington, and usually the loser speaks first. Tonight we saw Rand Paul come out, and he's already given his victory speech tonight, but we are awaiting Jim Gray to talk. And Gray, again, not really a surprise. Most polls showed that Rand Paul always had a strong lead in this race, double-digit leads, so not really a surprise. And you go back to the beginning before Jim Gray announced he was running, there was a time when we weren't sure if Democrats would really pick a credible candidate. They had a hard time finding one.
Well, they were looking at a number of people to run, and we heard a lot of names out there. But, Jim Gray is a good candidate. I think it's probably just the time in Kentucky that it's going to be very hard for a Democrat, at least on the national level right now, to run. I think you're going to see Jim Gray, although he declined to really talk about that earlier with Angela. But I think you may see Jim Gray run for something else down the line.
I think that's possible, but I also think he's probably happy as Lexington mayor too. And I've talked to people that live in Lexington that may not necessarily have the same politics as Jim Gray that have told me he's been a good mayor. I think his political career is definitely not over. Of course, he's still Lexington mayor for some time after today. So again, we're waiting to hear Jim Gray there in Lexington. And just a reminder, there are a lot of local races tonight. You see some city council races at the bottom of your screen, coroner's race in Letcher County, a district judge's race in Harlan County, a circuit judge's race in Letcher County. As those results come in, we are putting those at the bottom of your screen and on our website, WYMT.com. But the key ones we're focusing on tonight, obviously this U.S. Senate race, which Rand Paul has won, presidential race obviously, and a handful of state house races, and the biggest headline so far is that House Speaker Greg Stumbo has lost tonight, and that's a political shocker across the state. Any idea, if you could tell me when Jim Gray is expected to speak? Are we going to hang in here or go back to CBS? Okay, we're told he's going to come out any second, so we'll just stay right here. And then once Jim Gray has given his speech, we'll get you right back to CBS News presidential election coverage. Let's, and it looks like, well, there's Crit Llewellyn, former lieutenant governor. Let's just listen in to what she has to say.
Hello, Lexington, and hello, all of Kentucky. You know, even when there are dark clouds, there are reasons to celebrate. And tonight we are celebrating this great democracy that we all live in and how it works so well for us time after time when the people come out and speak their voice. It doesn't always work out the way we want it to, but that's what this democracy is about, is people having the freedom of choice and the freedom of voice. And we also celebrate tonight the value of public service and the value of public servants like Jim Gray, who were a leader of high integrity and vision, who was willing to step forward and make the great sacrifices that are necessary in a race like this one to help lead Kentucky forward. Jim Gray's roots go deep in Kentucky, with generations of his forebearers making their mark in Glasgow and Barron County. He first proved his mettle as CEO of Gray Construction, helping to propel the family company into what is now one of the nation's largest builders of major manufacturing facilities. Gray Construction is a great American success story, and Jim Gray is a great American success story. He understands what it means to put every ounce of your personal strength in achieving a vision and fulfilling a dream. That's what he's done in business, and that's what he's done in public service. When Jim took that private sector experience into the public arena and was elected mayor in 2010, he faced a daunting financial crisis. But he took on this community's toughest challenges with a keen intellect and a laser focus. And today he has righted Lexington's financial ship and created a dynamic economy with a focused strategy that's created not just jobs, but quality jobs. When Jim Gray entered the United States Senate race, he honored us all with his willingness to step into the larger arena. He has run this campaign with integrity and with a clear vision of what it will take to address the dysfunction in Washington and to deliver for Kentucky. And he has worked his heart out, delivering that message in every corner of Kentucky. We all owe Jim Gray our heartfelt appreciation for the remarkable campaign that he has run and for his leadership both now and in the future. It is my honor to ask you to help me welcome to the stage the Honorable Jim Gray, Mayor of Lexington.
Wow. Hey, everybody. Wow. Good evening, everybody. Well, I decided to begin this campaign because, well, like they say in the Broadway show Hamilton, it was my time to take my shot. Thank you all. And I took it. And even though the results aren't what we'd hoped, I am so glad I took that shot. I want to congratulate Senator Paul on his reelection. We fought hard. The people voted. Now we congratulate him and we move forward. While Senator Paul and I have clear differences, I will continue to work with him whenever possible for the people of Kentucky. And I want to thank so many Kentuckians who've been so good to me over the last few months, starting with the literally thousands of volunteers who've given of their time and talents to this campaign. I'm humbled by the more than 13,000 individual contributors who helped fuel our campaign. And the greatest thank you. And the greatest campaign staff any candidate could have hoped for. And of course, my family and my friends who have stood by me and supported me through this race and my whole life. I also want to thank the citizens of the great city of Lexington for giving me the honor of being your mayor. I look forward to continuing the extraordinary work we are doing right here. We've added 15,000 jobs in the last 6 years. We've moved our city budget from a deficit to surplus, and we've seen incomes go up 13% for our citizens. We are going to work to keep that momentum going. Let's bring more jobs here, even more opportunities, and let's make Lexington and Kentucky even better places to live, to work, to start a business, and raise a family. Now, when I got into this race, a lot of people wondered what kind of reception I would get, and so did I. Now, let me tell you about the reception I've gotten as I traveled thousands of miles across the Commonwealth. From Pikeville to Paducah, from West Louisville to West Liberty, I've talked to thousands of people. And more than that, I listened. I believe God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason, to listen twice as much as we talk. And I stand here today knowing Kentucky better and loving Kentucky more than I ever did before. And I've talked to so many people who also love Kentucky and who want to move our state forward. They see the changes happening in the world around us. They understand we cannot keep just preparing for the past. They understand we have to modernize our economy so we're ready for the future. They understand we have to rebuild our crumbling infrastructure in big cities, small towns, and rural communities. We need to encourage entrepreneurship and other opportunities by bringing high-speed internet to every corner of Kentucky. And we have to move forward in our schools so all our kids have the knowledge and skills they need to compete in the global marketplace. So many Kentuckians care deeply about preparing our state for the future because they care about what's going to happen to their kids. And something else, Kentuckians care about each other. I experienced that firsthand, and I'm grateful to the thousands of Kentuckians who welcomed me and offered me nothing but hospitality and respect. I met some unforgettable people on the campaign trail, like the college student who approached me in a coffee shop and just hugged me, and he said, "Thank you for running. I'm gay too." And there have been others. We've seen. Thank you. We have made tremendous progress in our treatment of LGBTQ Americans, but there are still too many kids in our country who grow up feeling like they have to hold on to this secret about who they are, because if anyone finds out, it could cost them everything. There may be fewer of those kids than there used to be, but one is too many. Let's remind ourselves, we are all God's children. And in America, we are all equal under the Constitution. That means that we all deserve our shot. That's the promise and possibility of America, that everybody has a shot. That's the American dream. That's the dream my parents lived, and the company they built has helped thousands of other Americans live that dream. That's what makes our country great. And our country is great today. It was great. Our country was great yesterday, and it will be even greater tomorrow. The future is big enough for all of us. The future has room for everyone who wants to work hard and contribute to the greater good here in Kentucky and all over America. Making sure everybody has a fair shot is what we've been fighting for in this campaign. And let's be clear, elections end, thank goodness. But our work, our mission, it goes on. If you supported me in this race, please join me in continuing to move Kentucky forward. The next session of the Kentucky General Assembly begins January 3rd. Your representatives need to hear from you. There will be local government meetings all over Kentucky. Some of the folks there will be new to their jobs. They need to hear from you. Let them know that you believe in a future that has a place for everyone. Let them know you are paying attention. This is what democracy requires. The founders knew that. In 1789, now you can tell I was a history major. In 1789, John Adams wrote a letter to his son Charles. He was talking about the prospect of running for political office. But his words apply to all of us, even today. Public business, my son, must always be done by somebody, he wrote. If wise men decline it, others will not. If honest men refuse it, others will not. If your representatives don't hear your voices, whose voices will they hear? Who will they listen to as they make decisions that affect us all? So let's continue to speak up and show up and fight for a future that includes everyone. Now let me close with something from the Bible. I grew up, and my family, my brothers and sisters, we grew up in the Disciples of Christ church. And like a lot of Christians, I've always taken comfort in Ecclesiastes 3, which talks about the value of work. And it says this, a man should rejoice in his own works. And of course, it also starts with these classic words. To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under the heaven. My friends, even though we would have preferred a different outcome in this race tonight, we have earned the right to celebrate the good works we have done in this campaign. And we have earned the right to look ahead with confidence at what comes next. Because, my friends, I promise you, our season is coming. Thank you all. God bless you, each and every one. And God bless the people of Kentucky. Thank you all.
Jim Gray not really looking too somber. I think he probably knew what was coming tonight, giving his concession speech there in Lexington. Of course, he will remain Lexington's mayor. Rand Paul defeating Lexington Mayor Jim Gray tonight. I want to go over a couple of things real quick that we haven't mentioned that I've been looking at some of these local races. Pike County has voted for a commissioner form of government tonight. We have a few judges races we've been keeping a close eye on. In the Lecture Circuit judge race, Jimmy Kraft wins. Harlan District judges race, Scott Lisenby wins.
And Steve, we have Chris Fugit has upset Fitz Steele. They have declared him the winner. 100% of the vote in now, and Chris Fugit wins by about a 4,000 vote margin. That's a lot larger. Everyone expected that race to be very, very close. Also down in the State House District 87, which represents Harlan and Bell counties, Rick Nelson, the Democratic incumbent, wins a close one there with 100% of the vote, 7,224 to Chad Shannon's 6,804. Someone close to the Nelson campaign told me that Nelson won in Bell County but lost in Harlan County, but it was enough to put him over the top.
That's one of the few bright spots for the Democrats tonight. If you're just tuning in late, really the big shocker to some, but certainly the big headline in Eastern Kentucky tonight is that House Speaker Greg Stumbo was defeated tonight by a political newcomer, Larry Brown, the Republican, and still waiting to hear whether the House will flip tonight, but it looks like that's a very good possibility.
Well, here's another one they just called State House District 91. That's Cluster Howard, the Democrat. He loses tonight to Toby Harold, and again, that was that rematch from a couple of years ago. He lost that one by about, looks like about 1,600 votes.
So that's another one that goes into the GOP column. That Chris Harris race is another one that looks like Norma Kirkpatrick is going to win in that race. So we could have several just here in Eastern Kentucky flip. But I believe we do have our political analysts joining us now, Coleman Elridge and Mike Duncan. And gentlemen, thank you again for joining us. First, let's get your thoughts, first of all, on the presidential race and where you see that race stands right now. Any surprises? Mike, let's start with you.
Well, I'm still looking at Florida, I'm looking at Ohio, and I'm looking at North Carolina. Until we get those results in, we're really not going to know. And all three of those allow early voting. And what you see in the initial results will be the absentee ballots and the people who voted early. So we're not going to know for a period of time in those three states.
Coleman?
Those are the same states I'm looking at, and also really still looking at Virginia and Michigan as well. I think Secretary Clinton is doing well in those states, overperforming in places in Michigan especially that should ease concerns. Virginia was a little bit of an issue early on, but I think those numbers are starting to come in around those urban areas as well. So those are going to be the states that I look at. But as Mike said, we'll be up for a while.
Let's move now to the local level, and the headline tonight here in Eastern Kentucky and probably across the state is that House Speaker Greg Stumbo defeated tonight by a political newcomer as the Republicans try to flip the House, and right now they look to be in a very good position to do that. Mike, first of all, let's start with you. Were you expecting that?
Well, I thought it was in the realm of possibility. I think two things are going on here. One, there's a major realignment going on in Kentucky. We've had that for the past decade. You're seeing federal elected officials, the U.S. senators, the members of Congress. We now have a Republican governor. And this was a logical extension of that because the Democrat Party in Kentucky got away from the values of Kentuckians. And they, particularly in the social area, moved too far with the national party. And that's coming home to haunt them now. Greg Stumbo was a representative of that. The second thing that happened to Greg, I believe, is that he got caught up in the same thing that Evan Bayh got caught up in Indiana tonight. He wasn't a full-time resident of his district. He spent a lot of time in Lexington. His family was there. You know, he was representing the state because he had interest to be down there, but he got caught up in not paying attention enough to the home fires. So these are two things that are going on, the realignment plus this whole idea of people wanting local representation.
Coleman?
Look, Greg Stumbo is a true Kentuckian. He has represented his district and the people of Kentucky with honor and distinction. He's been a real champion for the people of Eastern Kentucky. Unfortunately, what the Republican Party has done fairly well in Kentucky is use the President of the United States as a boogeyman, and have tried to tie Kentucky Democrats not to issues that really affect Kentucky Democrats, but to these abstract these abstract characters that we're just not tied to. And so I think, unfortunately, this time around, Greg Stumbo was a casualty of that. And I really think he took the high road as everything was thrown against him this evening by wishing his successor the best of luck, thanking his district for one heck of a ride and a great career. But I think that district and that portion of Kentucky, Eastern Kentucky, will miss the leadership of Greg Stumbo, because he has been a champion for the coal industry, for education, for transportation, for all of those things that it will take to really make Eastern Kentucky competitive, not only regionally, but nationally and globally. He's really been at the forefront of that. And so it's a tough loss. I think Kentucky is going to be a little more sad without his enthusiasm and his personality in Frankfort, but he has served this Commonwealth and this district with the utmost of integrity throughout his storied career.
Neil, let me jump in and congratulate Greg on what he said tonight. I thought both Greg and Mayor Gray handled themselves very well and did credit for their party and themselves individually. I also want to congratulate Rand Paul. We've not talked about his election tonight and how he really was at the vanguard of this, defeating Trey Grayson in the primary. He's part of this change that's wanted in this country and part of the realignment that's going on in Kentucky. I also want to thank all the people who ran, from local school board to the state representatives that you're seeing, the new people that will be going to Frankfort, all the way up to the U.S. senators. It's hard to put your name out there on the line. And last of all, I want to thank the voters of Kentucky for showing up today. The voter turnout over the state has been phenomenal. In Martin County, we had a record turnout today. And frankly, it was for one reason. It was almost 9-1 for Donald Trump in Martin County. Donald Trump brought out a lot of new people in Kentucky for voting. I congratulate him, and I congratulate the voters.
But you know, let me also caution. You know, tonight is for celebrating. Obviously, Democrats took a tough loss. Jeff Hoover, I believe, is going to be the next Speaker of the House, and he's a great friend, a great man, someone that I've prayed with and gotten to know on a personal level. And so I know that he will continue representing the values of Kentucky. But what I will say is this: we have seen as legislatures flip and Republicans take over state legislatures across the nation, some policies that really set the states back. Most notably, you look at what happened in Kansas. You look at issues of education, transportation, and just moving things forward in places like Alabama and Mississippi. And so what I would caution is for this new majority in the House, with the Senate, and this governor to not overreach, because what I'm looking at is the future of Kentucky. And I think we could actually lose generations of Kentuckians all across this Commonwealth if there is a massive overreach and a massive ideological temperament that governs instead of what is really in the best interest of the people of Kentucky. So, you know, I want to celebrate and not be a downer, but I could see millennials and future generations of Kentuckians rejecting some of the things that Donald Trump stood for, and if that becomes the governing ideology of this new majority in Kentucky, it spells trouble for our future.
Coleman, your party's been in charge for almost 100 years in the House of Representatives. You've had almost all the governors. You've controlled the Senate for the biggest part of the last 100 years. Economically, Kentucky's not doing that great, and we've had one-party leadership for a long time. So allowing a new party to come in with new ideas and new people is a good thing for democracy.
I get that talking point, Mike, but you know,
it's more than a talking point; it's reality.
Well, but you've been,
governors you've had
Mike,
for years and years. You control the legislature for 90 plus years in the House of Representatives. What more did you want?
That's great. That Mike, that's great. But
We don't have a
when I hear Republicans
don't
make
have a
that
balance
argument,
in the amount of money that we put in
Mike, now we have had a
funding
great
mechanism
conversation.
for retired employees.
I would appreciate if in your jubilation you would let me finish a sentence. Now,
I think
what I would say is that talking point is beautiful, and I'm so glad that from the RNC down you all use it. But what I would say is you can point to that leadership in Kentucky. What I would also say is we have been decimated in Kentucky by failed leadership in Washington, by Republican ideology and Republican policies that have led to trickle-down economics. You want to talk about the war on coal? Where has Mitch McConnell been when all of these jobs have been lost? And there was only one candidate for president that actually has a plan for coal country, a plan to put folks back to work in that region. And so, it's a great talking point, and we will obviously look, I'm a Kentuckian first. I'm an American person in Kentucky.
Slow down.
So I want this new majority to succeed. What I would caution, though, is if you're going to overreach, as so many other legislatures have done across the nation, that can spell trouble, not only for this new majority that you have, but for generations of Kentucky who need to put who want Kentucky to be put ahead of ideology and all of these things.
Is there a time clock on this?
We've got 4 more minutes, gentlemen. We've got 4 more minutes. So, Mike, you want to respond because I do have a question.
Now, your logic is that Kentucky has been singled out by the Republican Party and Republican presidents for doom. That's just ridiculous logic, Coleman. Come on, let's do better than that.
It is not, but okay.
Coleman, let me ask a question, though. Let me ask, and I'll get your take on this, Mike. But Coleman, 30 years ago, Democrats held a 3-1 advantage in Kentucky. Today, Democrats outnumber Republicans by only a 51 to 40% margin. The gap has been narrowing. What is the reason for the erosion in the Democratic Party?
Well, I think 2 reasons. First is on the Democrats. I think that when we try to run Republican light, when we don't stick to our own values and what makes us Democrats, and share that message, when we don't talk about our faith, which Neil and Mike and Steve, I've talked about as a Democrat openly because it's the very definition of who I am. When we don't do those things, it makes it very easy for the Republican Party to paint us as the national party. But the other part has been, and I will say it, the demonization of President Obama by the Republican Party in Kentucky, making him this boogeyman of a person who is not an American, not one of us, not looking out for Kentucky, has really been palpable. And all of those things about him are not true, but they have sure sold very well politically in Kentucky. And so I think you see that erosion. 1, based on some really good politics by the Republican Party, but 2, based on some real fault lines within the Democratic Party that we're going to have to wake up tomorrow and really have a really strong conversation about what do we want to be as a party, who do we want to be, and how are we going to regain the trust of the folks that have, by virtue of this result tonight, rejected our message.
Mike?
This actually started in the early 1990s when Ron Lewis was elected. This started during the Bill Clinton time, and people were seeing that the social values in Kentucky having to do with abortion and social values, the faith you talked about tonight, that the Republican Party was exposing and explaining those values better than the Democrat Party. That's what's caused the switch in registration.
Guys, we have about a minute and a half left. I want to go back to the presidential race for a moment. Trump just picked up Mississippi, which I don't think that's a big surprise. But if you look at the numbers right now, Trump is leading in the popular vote. He's leading in the Electoral College, 66-48. You might look at this and say, Trump's got a good shot to win this. Mike, how good of a shot does he have, and when will this race be called tonight? Your prediction.
Trump has a narrow path to victory, and the 3 states that I keep talking about, Florida, Ohio, and North Carolina, are key. He has to win those states. Then he has to break into this blue line that the Democrats refer to, and those are the Rust Belt states. He needs to get Michigan, or he needs to get Wisconsin, or Minnesota, or Pennsylvania. Those are the states. If you see him doing that, you know that Trump's on his way to victory.
Coleman?
I think he's got a slim chance. What I would say is, The rest of the nation is not necessarily Kentucky. It is more diverse. It's got a lot more demographics that lend itself to a Clinton victory. But you know, when you're one of two major party candidates, you've got a shot until the last vote is counted. And again, I'll end where I began this segment, that no one will go to sleep early tonight. We will be up watching all of these results come in for a while.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for your insight tonight. It's been enjoyable as always. And real quick, those three states Mike mentioned, Ohio, North Carolina leaning Clinton, Florida leaning Trump, very close. We're going to go back to CBS News coverage now for more on the presidential race. We'll be back with an update at 9:25.